Hello, Wake Up New Zealand, Karasaki speaking. Well, for the last about 24 months, since the start of the COVID-19, actually, the World Health Organization is using the COVID-19 pandemic as a justification to amend the international health regulations, WHO, UN, and at this moment, there are about 300 amendments to the international health regulations. And actually, Bloomfield is a regional player in this. He is the regional player for West Pacific as to those amendments, sitting on that council for pre planning these. So we've got Helen Clark, who's co-chair of the new International Pandemic Treaty Accord, WHO, that is also taking place in the World Health Assembly. Both will come to a conclusion when they are introduced into the World Health Assembly in May 2024. So there's major concerns around both the amendments to the HR and also what is happening with this new international pandemic treaty. So there's several articles that I want to talk about. Article 12.1 of the IHR 2005 gives the Director General of the World Health Organization sweeping powers to declare a health emergency worldwide. They call it an international concern, a health emergency of international concern, otherwise known as an extraordinary event, which is determined to constitute a public health risk to all states. So a new category has been added to the health regulations as well, and it's called intermediate public health alert, requiring heightened international awareness of undefined low threshold safeguards. And this is in Article 12 bar 6, where it says that the World Health Organization against any accusation of the powers to abuse the global system of health. So what they're saying is the World Health Organization is immune from any accusations against it for what they are doing when it comes to health global governance in times of international concern. The Director General, in response to such emergencies, is to issue recommendations to states to adopt them. Medical, non-medical countermeasures. This can have far-reaching effects, implications on livelihoods, health, human rights and freedoms. This is very undemocratic because this is a non-elected bodies of bureaucrats and technocrats that are laying down these rules, regulations globally, and they have become immune from responsibility and accountability. So the Director General of WHO, in response to such emergencies, this is under Article 15, 17, 48 and 49, recommends to states to adopt medical and non-medical countermeasures that has far-reaching implications on people's health, their livelihood, the economy of the country, education, every aspect of the country. So, and this can be fast-tracked and trigger a development of a global distribution of unlicensed investigational diagnostics, including jabs. So that's through the WHO emergency use listing procedure. It's called EULP, the fast tracking of emergency human trials. That's guinea pigs. This is the guinea pig state. So proposed amendments on 12 bar 1, 9 and 10 increases the World Health Organization powers the UN nation over the UN nation states, so like New Zealand. restricts state sovereign rights to legislate and implement legislation in pursuance of their own health policies. So that means the global health policies will take priority over our local health policies. Actually, that will lay them to being non-existent under times of emergency, when WHO calls emergency. So it relies on WHO Director General's powers to assess alleged global health risks by relying on information from outside officials, non-elected entities, thus giving UN nation states only 24 hours to verify the WHO information to collaborate with the allegations that WHO have made, even if those allegations are unjustified. So if those allegations are unjustified, a state like New Zealand, the government only has 24 hours to actually verify what the justification or non-justification for that is. So one must ask, who guards the human rights of the people of New Zealand or other nation states? Human rights, freedoms of people. What about voluntary consent? What about censorship? What about surveillance? It appears to be all in the hands of the Director General of the World Health Organization. So under the UN Charter, self-determination for sovereign states is really important. The people are the sovereign state of the country, and those in Parliament are there to serve us, not vice versa. So I really urge you to seek an open public debate about this, what's going on. We don't have long to do this, and we need to have this. This looks very suspicious. It looks like a top-down global dictatorship, and if it looks like a duck and it walks like a duck, then it is a bloody duck. So we need to take notice of this. This International Pandemic Accord, this is also includes compliance and obedience to the UN WHO Director General, calling a global emergency even upon climate change. Now, the reason I say that, because the One Health approach is entrenched in the pandemic treaty, this new pandemic treaty. So what is the One Health approach? We're talking about control and management of all humans on this earth, animals, wild, domestic, ocean, seas, estuaries, lakes, plants, trees, the whole ecosystem of everything. So they could call a climate change crisis where everyone has to obey, say, not getting in their cars and going to visit family, or to only use your car every so often, or to change your diet. And I kid you not. So this is what can happen. So we've got New Zealand members of parliament. We've entrusted these to actually safeguard our human rights, but none of them publicly talk about this. So what's happening here? I mean, this comes about, this is a destruction of sovereign nations. It's a global top-down governance. It's a dictatorship. So the people in New Zealand and other nations don't have a voice because this is all being done behind closed doors. So why would you trust it? You can't even trust them, because in March last year, the World Health Organization requested that all states where individuals had received a positive COVID test, are classified, if they die within a month, to have died of COVID-19. A man was shot in New Lynn, and it was said he died of COVID-19, and that is why. Now, that is corrupt and criminal. So how can you trust it? Where you've got a load of bureaucrats and technocrats, unelected, are just part of this global cabal of a global health governance through the WHO, where the WHO Director General has all this power over the health of everyone and the climate. So there's a mechanism that actually monitors 194 UN nation states, the populations, and it's enabled by political bureaucrats like Helen Clark and Ashley Bloomfield. So a mechanism that exists is called the Compliance Committee and Universal Peer Review Mechanism, and it refers to restructuring our domestic health system and the allocations of our domestic health budgets around pandemic surveillance, preparedness, response activities, a global decision-making mechanism acted out locally. So through this global health governance, the powers of the Director General of the WHO are huge. They are using the COVID-19 pandemic to be justification to bring all this about. And when you think about it, during COVID, have they actually been clear? Have they apologized for the people who have suffered? Those who've had COVID jabs cause serious harm? No. What about the deaths from the jabs? Have they been transparent? No. It's always been the benefits versus the risks, and the benefits are far greater. What bullshit! There is no transparency, so why would you trust them? Look at the jobs lost. Look at the education loss with the children. Look at the fear and people still wearing masks, still fearful. So, people, we know they're lying. They know that we know they're lying, but they just keep on damn well lying, don't they? So you can't call this transparency. And how can you fucking trust them? We're talking about every person's health in this world today, governed by the Director General of the World Health Organization and bureaucrats, technocrats in each nation state actually playing out this global agenda. So New Zealand has got a great reputation on the global stage as we have human lab rats. Why do I say that? Well, through my research, I've found through a large pharmaceutical company in New Zealand that because we have a very diverse, big range of ethnic groups in our country, and there is a lack of pharmaceutical medicines for really serious illnesses like cancer, etc. We are the first to see the dawn come up in the day, and with all these research institutes and more money going into them, what's happened is that we can actually, in New Zealand, the time restraints around human trials are much smaller than in other countries. So it saves those researching from other countries a lot of money if they come to New Zealand. So this is what's happening, and the government is putting more and more money into this. So for the future and the global health governance in New Zealand, we have Bill Gates, the Gates Foundation, that has actually funded Massey University, Otago University research. Many research subjects, etc., have been funded by Bill Gates, the Gates Foundation in New Zealand. So we're looking at the government, the annual research budget. You're talking about global and New Zealand foundations. You talk about New Zealand government spent $1 billion on research and development in 2020. And you're talking about MPI government, 52.12 million. And you're talking about 56.12 million. Another government department, 50 million. There's even research into agriculture. There's a lot of money going into that. Non-meat products from corporations too. So, University of Chicago received funding from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So he lends a hand to Massey University to research Ebola. And this is what's happening in New Zealand. The global cabal make their mark locally. Gates Foundation funds research reports. This is from the Beehive. The Beehive. This is on their website. 21st of the 9th, 2020. 27 million from the Gates Foundation. The Speaker in the House was Winston Peters. He was referring to the COVID-19 jabs, development through Global COVAX facility. He said, this money is going to act as a pre-purchase of the jabs if they are successful. He said it's important that all countries are able to access sufficient amounts of vaccines to protect their populations, to getting the pandemic under control at a global level. This is Winston Peters. And he said joining the COVAX facility is complementary to other strands of COVID-19 back strategies, which include advanced purchase agreements with pharmaceutical companies, investing in global research and increasing manufacturing capability. Beehive website. This is Winston Peters. So UN member states are able to vote on the amendments to the health regulations and the pandemic treaty, but it's all done secretly behind doors. So this is the risk of losing sovereignty of countries. And the WHO have two legal instruments that are non-questionable. The leadership in health matters. WHO having mass power over sovereign nations, over health emergency of public concern, Article 13(1)(a). Also under that article, a mass power of health emergencies of public concern with a One Health approach. Well, I've told you what that is. And it says the level of CO2. Permanent measures declared by WHO to have the right to declare recommendations, impose all kinds of restrictions on nation states, even experimental treatments. So what was in one article, Article 18, that said that the original health regulations, there was a non-binding. Well, they've now scrubbed out the non-binding and put binding. So non-binding is eliminated, is now binding vaccinations. We'll be able to decide all the information, including censorship and surveillance. This is what the World Health Organization Director General can do. No science, no legal court proceedings, no court of justice, no scientific process, and no democracy, and no democratic rights, no human freedoms. And this is what we're looking at. The basic principle that we as human beings have the right to know what we consent to is diminished. So this is what's happening. the violation of informed consent, self-determination of people, that's laid out in the UN Charter 1946, the self-determination of each person. No protection, no checks, no accountability, and WHO and their bureaucrats, non-elected bureaucrats, and technocrats immune from a responsibility and accountability, a top-down dystopian dictatorship of global governance. And Article 1, amendments reference health products. They include therapeutics, vaccines, medical devices, personal protective gear, other products, diagnostics, cell-based therapies, materials, parts, health products, medicines, health technologies, and it goes on to databases, systems, health products, procedures, technologies, those that are interchangeable. So are now all binding. Whatever the WHO choose is binding. So this is binding. A principle has been removed from the original IHR to full respect for the dignity, human rights, and fundamental freedoms of persons. They've taken that out of the original IHR. This has been replaced with the implementation of these regulations shall be based on principles of equity, coherence, inclusivity, and in accordance with their common but differentiated responsibilities of state parties, taking into consideration their social and economic development, all rubber stamped by the New Zealand government. So, full respect for the dignity of the person and their human rights, their freedoms, has been removed. So we're looking at Articles 13.3 for equates to the World Health Organization Director General having huge powers over UN nation states. So they have much more power over New Zealand and other nation states. So by deleting the phrase at the request of the state party and replacing it with may with shall, assistance offered by who to a state in the response to public health risks becomes the default option. Okay, so in the original, it used to be may, and now it's shall. So that's an order. May, you make up your mind. So if a state doesn't accept such offers for assistance within 2 days in declaring a health rationale for rejection, if there's information come through about an emergency, some disease or something, and they have, WHO has information, we only have 24 hours to respond. So we're talking about the mobilisation of international assistance, including on-site assessments by the World Health Organization over the state of New Zealand and other nation states. So there's 300 amendments that have been proposed, and they are all going to come about at the World Health Assembly, what they have concluded on in May 2024, as is the new International Pandemic Treaty, or Accord, they call it, that will be concluded in May 2024 in the World Health Assembly. So all will be concluded upon. Up till then, you are being left in the dark. Those that are supposed to serve the people are not holding public debate or even talking to us about it. And yet, it will control all your lives in every aspect possible because they have that One Health approach actually embedded in this new international WHO UN pandemic treaty. Wake up, New Zealand.